welcome again to Rapid Drafts Fantasy Lunch. Pat Eggwall, Kalen Morale here, talking a little bit about some recent quotes of the OTAs.
They've been good ones.
They've been good ones. Tony Sperano on Ronnie Brown. In the weight room, this guy is super right now. He weighs 230. He's running better. He's stronger. So all those things from a progress standpoint, as I see, as positives. He knows our system, understands what we expect from him, and that's a positive. I would expect that without hesitation, without any of those things right now from a physical standpoint, without any of those limitations, that he takes the next step in having a super year. At the same time, Ronnie and Ricky Williams are both back there. They understand their roles and what they really are. So the question is this Ronnie Brown's breakout year?
I think anything's possible with the Dolphins. I mean, look at how they came back last year. And I gotta say, first of all, how many times am I going to slip up this year and call him Tony Soprano?
Tony Sperano.
I do it every year. And I think anything's possible with that team. I really do.
I think the introduction.
It's early though.
The introduction to Pat White, they could end up all over the place. I mean, you're talking about a team that went from something to nothing to actually something really good.
Right.
And Ronnie Brown, I mean, I'd be willing to bet you last year people were taking Ronnie Brown in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Mm-hmm. Now, in Rapid Draft, I see Ronnie Brown going in the middle of the 2nd round.
Yeah.
I think people genuinely believe that the Miami Dolphins are for real.
Mm-hmm. You can't make such dramatic stride from just a dead last horrible, almost a Detroit Lions-esque year to what they did last year without having some potential and just some players that are going to make a difference.
Rex Ryan talking about Thomas Jones. I've always respected the kind of player he is, just to see him close up. Wow, this guy is really built. He's good. He told me he's happy to be here. I told him I'm certainly happy that he's here. That's exciting to have him back here. Now he is having contract squabbles. And Thomas Jones, in my opinion, is another one of those workman-like backs that runs great between the tackles. He's a mutter, but they drafted Sean Green.
This sounds to me like a pageant answer. It's a world peace, let's make everybody happy kind of answer, because obviously everything's not so great at home if there's contract disputes.
And I think you got to have a Thomas. I mean, the Thomas Jones to me is just, the Bears absolutely gave him away because they were so convinced that Cedric Benson was the guy. So he goes to the Jets and he does nothing but produce there. And I guess sooner or later the shine comes off the penny and you say, sooner or later Thomas Jones is not going to have that good a year. You know what? I don't think that year is this year.
No, I don't either. I think he's got a few more years in the sun.
Speaking of contract disputes, Ken Wisenhunt on Anquan Bolden. We're a much better football team with Anquan than we are without him, and we have a high regard for him. Little note, the AP reports that Arizona wide receiver Anquan Bolden is in the process of firing Drew Rosenhaus. Bolden, who was locked in the contract dispute, informed NFL Players Association in a letter that he wants to replace his agent.
Do you just think it'd be a better league in general with the absence of agents? Because they seem to cause a whole lot of problems.
I think without question it'd be better without Drew Rosenhaus.
Well, yeah, or Bus Cook.
But eventually you might have offensive linemen making, $37,000 a year if it wasn't for the Drew Rosenhauses running up the price.
Right.
But Anquan Bolden, I mean, again, how it relates to Rapid Draft. When do you take Anquan Bolden? What happens if he comes to August and he says, to hell with it, I'm just not going to play? And here you got people drafting 2nd, 3rd round, thinking Anquan Bolden's going to go 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns. He may not play at all.
I think your best bet is if you hear any contract disputes in the news, don't rapid draft them.
Lastly, Mike McCarthy on Aaron Campman. I think this defense is going to help Aaron Campman. I think there's always a hesitancy when you are asked to do something different. Aaron was very comfortable in the old scheme, but I think it's going to create more opportunities for him. Hogwash.
Lots of positives.
I think it's hogwash. I mean, I think Aaron Campman is a fish out of water. I don't think he's happy with it. I don't think he wants to drop back into pass coverage. And I don't think that the Green Bay Packers quite honestly care. They're going to say, we're going to play you here and you're going to go be a free agent next year anyway.
The Green Bay Packers are an organization that do what they want and they want to win. You know what? Who can blame them? They're going to do what they need to do to win, and obviously I'm going to make the assumption that Aaron Campman's not happy about it, because if he was happy about it, he'd be talking, and he's not. But one quote I'm particularly interested in talking about is Fran Tarkenton.
Nice.
Giving Brett Favre a little run for his money. And do we think that this is going to fuel the fire and give a little more spite for Brett Favre to come back and put on that purple and gold?
It's just gotten to be such a patent place about this. You know, now you got Fran Tarkenton, who hasn't been heard or seen since That's Incredible in the 1980s, and now he's coming out of the woodwork to bash Brett Favre. I just don't get it. If the guy wants to play, suit him up and play. If you don't want to play, get done with
The
it.
bottom line, if you're doing it for revenge, who's the loser in that situation? You are. And you know what? Karma's a bitch.
Hey, and I heard some Bear fans say, you know what? Good. We've been kicking Favre's ass for 3 years. I hope he
Let's
stays.
do it again.
I hope he stays in the Central. I wanted to switch gears just a little bit in the last couple minutes we have and talk a little bit about the Rapid Draft, ADPs. That's average draft position, something that we feel at Rapid Draft is going to be the know-all, end-all, do-all, the gold standard, if you will.
Standard.
So, looking at some of the stuff we have, you did a little bit of a tease on a 2-minute update not long ago, talking about guys like Jay Cutler and Donovan McNabb at 75. Are they about right there? Chad, 8'5". Ocho Cinco goes at number 50,
Yep.
which that's a complete crapshoot. But you got to look at it this way and say, no more TJ Houshmandzadeh. And Carson Palmer, for all intents and purposes, looks to be healthy.
Looks to be healthy right now.
He's got to throw the
but
ball to somebody.
He does. But how accurate he throws it,
And how much does Chad,
Well,
8'5", actually want to run routes?
Exactly.
Does he? He's certainly not going over the middle.
and how big our head's going to get once we're on HBO doing Hard Knocks.
Exactly. And actually, I've been shocked that Brandon Marshall and Eddie Royal have kept the high ADP, because I think with Kyle Orton coming into Denver, with a whole truckload of new running backs, with a new coach, with a new offensive coordinator, I just don't think they're going to have the same kind of numbers that they had when Jay Cutler was back there throwing the ball 46 times a game.
But you do, I'm taking a look, they have McDaniels in there. McDaniels, his prodigy was Matt Castle in New England, who, coming off of, Tom Brady going down that first game last year, did a fair job, especially not having played starting quarterback because he was behind Leinart when he was in California. So I think McDaniels knows how to tailor a quarterback and maybe can make Kyle Orton a little bit more productive than he was to the south of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, and that's what's great about Rapid Draft, and that's why people are digging doing drafts early now, because of the values that you can get.
And Eddie Royal got me some good points last year, so I still look for him to get for some value picks with Eddie.
And guys like Donnie Avery of the St. Louis Rams, I mean, he's way higher than I thought he'd be, and Brandon Marshall is just a perfect example, and people expect this guy to be a stud, even with a new quarterback, a new coordinator, a new head coach, and off-the-field problems up the kazoo. He's still going 14th, 16th, 21st. So Brandon Marshall, that's, grab him when you can. He could be worse. So that's going to do it for another edition of the Rapid Draft Fantasy Lunch. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.